Well, one of my favorite guests is with me now, Gerald Celente. Gerald Celente is publisher of the National Trends Research Journal, head of the National Trends Research Institute, Kingston, New York. Guest on talk shows all over the country, radio and television, and frequent writer in things like, news magazines, the most popular things you pick up and read. And Gerald Celente says he is apolitical. Is that about right?
No.
It's
I'm
not
a political
right?
atheist.
Oh, a political atheist.
Yeah, I don't believe. I'm not an agnostic. I don't believe in political gods. I don't believe in political parties. I don't believe in the political system.
And what else do you not believe in?
Santa Claus.
Gerald, your latest Trends Journal talks about war. Tell me about that.
It's going on in front of our eyes.
It's going on right now.
Yeah, it's the first great war of the 21st century has begun. Follow the timeline. The Panic of '08, the crash of the Panic of '08 is equal to the crash of '29. Following the crash of '29 was the Great Depression. We have the Great Recession/Depression. Depends where you're looking in the world. If you're in Spain, it's a depression. If you're in Greece, it's a depression.
Uh-huh.
If you're 18 to 25 years old, in much of the world, it's a depression.
Yeah.
You look at the currency wars going on as I speak. They're fighting about the Brazilian real is crashing. The Indian rupee is going through the floor. The Chinese are devaluing their currency so they can export more. Their exports are nearly flat this past July, last month.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the trade wars that are heating up. They're going on. And World War II. Same thing is going on now. The Great War has begun. The economic systems are collapsing. This is what's behind all of the wars in recent memory, in recent history. It's not about territory or about religions. It's about money. And the money game is falling apart worldwide.
Now, is that what happened back in 1929?
Absolutely. You had the crash of '29, all of the corruption, the people out in the streets, the bread lines, worldwide depression.
That's what led to World War II?
Sure did. And again, there's another parallel going on. Actually, two of them as I speak. One, back then you had Japan. And people don't realize that the United States, UK, Netherlands, they had cut Japan off from natural resources. They couldn't get any oil or other resources. It was a boycott. And the same thing is going on now with Iran. Iran's been effectively boycotted. They can't sell anything. And then 80% of their GDP is oil generated. And another interesting parallel. Back in Spain, they had the Spanish Civil War. We have one going on now. It's just a little different. You have the indignados, the millions of people that have lost everything and have nothing left to lose, taking to the streets and living in Franco-era depression levels. Turn on the news last week. Riots in France. All of those unemployed young people. Look what's going on in Yemen. Look what's going on in Bahrain. Look what's going on in Syria. Look what's going on in Egypt and Tunisia and Morocco.
This is all leading to a war with weapons?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And now, of course, the latest report out is that Israel's ambassador, Oren, said that a strike against Iran will bring them a delay of several years. Bring them a delay? No, it won't. It'll be the onset of World War III. This is Iran. This isn't Iraq. This isn't Lebanon. This is 70 million strong. And you're going to invade their country, attack their nuclear facility? And it's going to be the beginning of war. There's that Bedouin saying, me against my brother.
Mm-hmm.
My brother and I against our cousin. My brother, my cousin, and I against our neighbor. and all of us against the foreigner.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen if Israel attacks Iran. Forget about the civil war in Syria. They'll all unite.
Hold on, you said something else. You said Iran and nuclear facility. Do they have that?
They ostensibly their only nuclear facility is for
generating power.
Generating power. They claim they don't have one.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's been no proof put forth that they do. And I take the position that even if they do, who doesn't have them? North Korea has them, the United States has them, Israel has several hundred reportedly, Pakistan, India. I mean, you go down the list. But they say they don't have one. But again, it's an act of war. You want to go to war, these are the consequences. It'll be the beginning of World War III, as we see.
How can we avoid that?
There are ways to avoid it. One of the ones we wrote about in the TrendsJournal several issues ago is thorium. When they developed nuclear power, it was a choice between uranium and thorium. And they went with uranium back in the Cold War days because they could enrich it and make bombs with it. There are a number of countries that are moving toward thorium. China, Brazil being two of them, and possibly the Czech Republic. So, Iran could temper this whole issue by saying we're going to thorium or we're not going to be doing nuclear at all. But I think there are bigger issues. And the bigger issues is that people are psychopaths and sociopaths and megalomaniacs. And when I look at Israel, this guy who's this Netanyahu, he's running with a 60% disapproval rating. And politicians are, they're to me, that's why I'm a political atheist. I don't believe in them. They'll do anything to retain power. And I believe that that's what they're using and to fire up the people in Israel. Look in the United States. People forget this. Before 9/11, George W. Bush was way, way, way down in the polls.
Yeah.
You go back to those days prior to 9/11, he was nobody. The nation had turned their back on Bush already. After 9/11, wow, everybody rallied around him.
Yeah.
Is that going to happen? I think the same thing in Israel.
Is it going to happen again here? Are the American people going to rally around someone?
Oh, absolutely. I came back from Germany recently, and I've been haunted by the visit ever since. I was in Berlin, and it was my first time. And I've been to a lot of places around the world.
You talked about Auschwitz.
Well, I've talked about Auschwitz as well in the terms of that. Just as the Jews were led into the cattle cars by not resisting their occupier, the same thing I see happening in America.
You know why they didn't resist?
Yeah,
they were
lied.
I
know
they were lied to.
They were lied to, and also by my Jewish friends who study it, they've said that there were two factions. There was the highly religious Hasidim faction, and the more secular, or as they would call them today, Reform Jews, I should say. And the Reform Jews wanted to fight back, and the religious Jews didn't. And the religious Jews were saying, do not antagonize the occupier, and that God was watching them. And in the last 2 days, I'm told, that when the uprising in the ghetto did happen, they killed more German soldiers than all of Poland did since the time the Germans occupied. But going back to what I was saying about being in Berlin and being haunted, you see this gorgeous city. To me, that had to be grander than Paris before it was bombed out.
Yeah.
Wide boulevards, beautiful, wide sidewalks with enough room for cafe tables, people to walk on and bicycle on.
And great architecture.
Beautiful architecture. But between that architecture, Orv, are newly constructed buildings from post-World War II. And you see that everywhere you go. And I'm saying to myself, these are the Germans. I mean, they had to be at the top of Western civilization in the 30s.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at the history of the German people. I mean, Bach, Beethoven, Goethe, Einstein, to Marlene Dietrich, Fritz Lang, and, Wagner. How could they let a two-bit freak like Hitler bring them down?
But they did.
But they did. And then I'm of Italian descent. We have the same thing. Look at our history. Michelangelo, Da Vinci, Puccini, Rossini. You know.
And you see that happening here?
Yes. It's a two-bit freak show to me.
Who's the freak?
To me, they all are. Again,
okay.
You know, as I look at Bush and Cheney, Marvel comic books could not have come up with a better character than Dick Cheney. Yeah, as I look at Obama and I look at Romney, I look at Ryan, I look at Biden. To me, I don't know how any self-respecting adult could follow the presidential reality show and believe this juvenile, this bad act that they put on. Well, I'm going to go down to Illinois. I think I'll stand in front of the cornfields, even though the corn is burnt. Let me sit on a hay bale. I'll go over there to Pittsburgh, and maybe I'll stand on a factory floor with a forklift in front of me and a bunch of cement bags behind.
And the media will take my picture and put it all over everywhere.
And I'll call everybody folks. Folk. Yeah, I got a folk for you. And the other thing, Orv, is that, you know, you could find them every 4 years. Every 4 years that you want to see your president or the challenger, every 4 years they're going to show up at Millie's Diner, you know, Frank's Barbecue,
Yeah.
you know, all of the suspected places to just show they're one of the folks.
Now, we're going to run out of time shortly, but I want to cover something else. In 2011, in your Trends Journal, you said if the Republicans picked somebody like Paul Ryan, it would be political suicide.
Yep. We wrote about a whole article on it in the Trends Journal a year ago, and we broke down who Paul Ryan is. You know, I say, again, I'm a political atheist. I'm not voting for any of them. I refuse to vote for lesser of two evils. I will not participate in this any longer. To me, it's the Bananos and the Gambinos, Republicans and Democrats, a two-headed one-party system. And I've said this often, and I've even maybe said it on your show. These politicians are the same people you couldn't stand in high school and college. The ones that wanted to be class president and head of the student council. The suck-ups, the brown-noses, the glad-handers, the overly ambitious and the insincere. Voila. Roll out Paul Ryan, class president, and voted by his high school classmates, who apparently have more insight than adults do today, thinking in their adolescent terms, of voting him in as brown noser of the year. And I'm not making that up.
That's in his high school yearbook, I
That's
guess.
right. Brown noser of the year. The cat never worked a day in his life. One of those guys that was born on third base and hit a triple, he thought.
Our guest is Gerald Celente, publisher of the National Research Trends Journal. Gerald, before you get away, got to ask you, tell me how to get the Trends Journal.
TrendsJournal.com. TrendsJournal.com. We're looking at some major financial shakeups coming in the coming months, and what we're warning people is to get prepared. If you're prepared, nothing happens. You've lost nothing. If you're not prepared, and the worst happens, you lose everything. So it's TrendsJournal.com.
Major financial shakeups coming how soon?
Look at September 12th. That's going to be a big day. And the reason being is that the German Supreme Court is going to be voting on issues that will really determine the future of the euro. And we'll be writing much more about that. And it's a date to watch, because if the Supreme Court rules that the Germans are in violation, it could be the end of the euro within weeks or days.
TrendsJournal.com. Catch up with it and find out and stay alert. Gerald Celente. Gerald, thank you again. Let's talk again down the road, can we?
I'd love to. Thank you, Orr, for having me on.